What's going on, guys? Welcome to the finale of Season 2 of the Back in the Day podcast. This week, joining me on the podcast is the extremely talented Dan O'Malley from The Russ Martin Show. Dan and I talk about a lot of fun things. We talk about how he met his wife. We talk about how he was an umpire. And, of course, his story about how he got into the radio. Hope you guys enjoy.
Hey, are you talking about back in the day?
Nah, man. I'm talking about back in the day.
Back in the day. Back in the day. Back in the day. Back in the day.
Joining me on the Back in the Day podcast today from the Russ Martin Show. You can hear him 5 to 7 on 97.1 The Eagle or on the iHeart Radio app. Is Mr. Dan O'Malley. How are you today, Dan?
I'm doing good. It's been a while since I've been called Mr., so thank you.
Man, you got to keep it formal sometimes. I heard recently that they're saying that that's like calling someone sir or miss is like offensive now.
See, I guess I'm old school enough to where that doesn't offend me. Like I'm still, whenever I see anybody or I speak to somebody, I'm extremely polite. Mm-hmm. I'll say, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, ma'am. I still throw that stuff out. And if someone has a problem with it, the way I see it is that's their problem.
Yeah.
Not mine. I'm going to keep doing what I do. It is weird, though, as you get older and someone refers to you as sir for like that first time. Mm-hmm. And it just makes your head spin. You're like, oh, my God.
Yeah, like my kids
I am a sir now.
My kids are, one's in daycare and the other one's in actual school. Mm-hmm. And now when I'm like the teacher's like, Mr. Pasvar or whatever, like, that's awkward.
Yeah.
Please learn my first name.
Yeah.
This is weird. And I'm not going to call you Mrs. So-and-so either. What's your first name? We're going to have like a real conversation.
Right.
So, man, I haven't seen you in a while. It's been like, I don't know, maybe a decade or so.
Probably.
I used to see you all the time up at the comedy club because I worked with your wife.
Yeah.
That was, do you care? Can we talk about I know you? Okay. So I knew you because y'all were y'all hadn't been dating when you met her from there, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how we met was because of my friendships with the comedians in town, and I met her through those friendships because she was working at the comedy club. And then one night, I had gone out to meet all the guys at a bar on Henderson in Dallas after a show, and she came with everybody. And then that was how I had heard about her for a while before I actually physically met her. And then one night out, finally met.
Yeah, because I enjoyed her working there, because it was fun for me, because I worked the door, she was bartender, and it was fun for me to watch just every awkward dude try to hit on her. So that was always real fun for me, and like anytime we'd go on, I'd always shoot her a look, like, to get like the, and then you showed up and she actually liked you, so that was
I don't know how that happened. To this day, I'm still kind of stunned about that, because like you, obviously, she was very attractive, and working in that environment. Any bar environment is already, going to be challenging for any relationship. But for some reason, in the comedian environment, because you have celebrities coming and going, you have all these things. And how I broke through, I have no idea. Well, actually, I do, but I don't want to give away all my secrets.
Well, yeah, you don't want to do that, Well,
I ignored her.
Is that what it was?
That's actually what it was. The first time we met, we didn't actually meet. I was in such a deep conversation about the Mavericks with Paul Varghese that I never even said hi to her. I noticed her, but I never even said anything to her. And then a few days later, back at the same spot, same type scenario. This time we actually got introduced. And then because I basically ignored her that first time, I guess I was some sort of a challenge at that point.
No, I get
because
that.
She hates being ignored, hates it.
Well, and because she's attractive, she's used to people coming up to her and probably, spitting terrible game and everything like that. Because I watched it. I had the best seat. I had the little booth seat right there that I was right there. And then her bar was right to the right of me or whatever. And I would just watch it happen every single Friday and Saturday night for months. And then you showed around, it stopped. Because you came up there pretty often.
I did. I ruined everybody's fun. Sorry.
No. Because you were fun too. The three of us would just sit there and talk the entire while the show would go on.
Yeah, because that was actually one of my favorite times, was because then I got to talk to her or talk to you or whoever was working the door that night, because the show was happening inside. And so it was really just a handful of people outside. And it was
Yeah.
usually all the comics. And since I knew everybody already, I was hanging out with my friends, and just so happened to be that, the girl I'm dating was the bartender.
Yeah. Who did you hang out? You hung out with, like, if my memory serves me right, like, was it Raj and Tone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then how did you know them? Did you do comedy at one point?
No, I actually never did. So I met them. I'm always trying to remember how it all got started, but I don't know exactly because my memory is very, very poor, especially when I think back all the way back then. But I want to say it was around, I'll say like 2003, 2004, somewhere in there. I met a couple of the comedians, and the first guys that I met were Paul Varghese, Jason James, and Aaron Aryampur. And once I met those guys, I met Raj soon after, and then I don't remember exactly how it really happened, but it happened. And at the time, in addition to working on the Russ Martin show, I had my own show on Saturday nights, and I'd invite the guys up to come up and promote their shows.
Oh, okay.
So they got a good gig out of it because they got to promote their show on the radio. And in addition to promoting their show that they had coming up, it also gave them practice for when they would go into other cities and do interviews with other stations and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Cool, man. So, like, what station were you on then?
That was Live 105.3.
Live?
Yeah.
So, how did you get, like, how did you get into radio? Is that something you did, like, always wanted to do growing up, or what was kind of your path getting into radio?
So it was when I was much younger. I wanted to get into sports play-by-play. Wanted to get into sports broadcasting because I thought, what better job than, because I'm going to watch football anyway, or I'm going to watch baseball anyway. Why not get paid to do it and then just tell everyone what you're seeing? And that was my goal for a really long time. I think I would say probably middle school was around when I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And then in high school, it shifted into wanting to do radio because I started thinking about, doing sports day in, day out, day in, day out. And just saying it just now seems really repetitive.
Yeah.
That was how I felt in high school. I was like, okay, I like it, but I don't know if I want to talk about it all the time. So I decided to shift into more of like a morning show type thing where you can kind of do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, it's like almost like a variety show type thing.
Yeah, exactly. So you can talk about whatever the current events are or really whatever you want. And that appealed to me more. So that was when I sort of shifted my focus.
Did you grow up around here?
I did.
In the Metroplex?
Yeah.
Cool, man. And so what were you like in high school? Did you do sports? Did you do?
Yeah. I would say I was sort of a hybrid high school kid. So I wasn't the coolest, but I wasn't the biggest loser either.
Okay.
And as we all know as adults, that shit doesn't matter.
No,
in
not
high
at all.
school, it seems like it's
so
your whole
important.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll live and die by that crap. But as an adult, you realize none of it means anything really, other than just kind of forming your character, your person. But yeah, in high school, I played football, I played baseball a little bit, so I was athletic, but I was also on the newspaper staff.
Okay.
So that's not cool at all. And I also helped on yearbook, which is at my school was even a step below newspaper.
What were you doing on yearbook?
So because of the whole sports broadcasting thing, I wanted to get into sports. I wanted to do journalism. So I figured, I should write for the paper. It's not like Lamar High School in Arlington had a radio program or anything. No. So I'll go whatever media there is, and that was the paper. And so I started on that. I think it was sophomore year. So I think it was my sophomore year I started on the paper, and just kind of did a little bit of everything. I did some sports stories, did some entertainment stuff, did some general news stuff as well, just kind of doing a little bit of everything, and learning as much as I can as I went. And then my senior year, everyone knew pretty much where they were going to be as far as editorial staff. Mm-hmm. We knew the one girl wanted to be editor-in-chief more than anything, or she'd probably gut you. So we're like, you can have that, Amanda.
Yeah, take it, please.
My buddy wanted to be the sports director. I wanted to be the movie guy, so I had the whole entertainment section. And that was when I really started to realize, okay, I kind of have my choice here. Do I wanted to do sports or entertainment? I wanted to do entertainment. Mm-hmm. And that was when I started to notice that shift
How deep were you going into these movies? Did you go were you just watching a ton of movies and just writing reviews on them?
Not a ton, because the school didn't pay me back for the tickets.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, so the way our paper worked, it wasn't a weekly. It was basically once a month.
Yeah.
On a good clip.
Yeah.
Might be every 6 weeks. So it was more almost magazine style. So what we did was I'd review a couple movies. Maybe someone else would as well. And I'd try to review stuff that was going to be out around the time the paper was going to be out, so it was still, top of mind. Something that probably wouldn't work today, because if you don't see a movie within 5 minutes, there's already spoilers everywhere. So.
No, and especially I think about that too. Like I remember our newspaper in high school would come out like you said, like once every 4 or 6 weeks. I don't know. It was not very often, because I remember when they would come out, it was kind of a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. Now if you put newspaper out in a week, everyone would already know about whatever happened on Twitter. I don't even, actually, probably kids don't even use Twitter. If I could imagine a kid
Yeah, they
Twitter.
may not. If it's not on TikTok, then they have no idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I can't imagine trying to get stuff out now. They probably don't even try to do a newspaper now.
I'm not even sure. I haven't even tried to go back and see how it is they do that nowadays. Because really, you don't even need a newspaper these days. Anyone can have a website.
Yeah.
So to me, I would think they just have a high school paper website and just do it that way.
Some kind of blog, some kind of something. I know I saw something recently, like at my old high school, came up in my news feed where they had like a whole video channel, like newscast almost.
That's awesome.
It looked like legit too. Because we did something, they introduced this class like my junior year. It was sports, entertainment, and marketing.
Oh man!
And all of us were like pumped to get in that class. But they hired some guy that didn't even know anything about sports or marketing. His experience was he used to work at Whirlpool. Like that.
The appliance company.
Yeah, and he was obsessed with it. And he would talk about it all the time. He'd be like, back at Whirlpool, we did this, this, and this, and this. And one day and he was kind of a nerdy guy, Mm-hmm. And I asked him one day, and I was being honest. I was like, hey man, Mr. Murphy, why did you quit Whirlpool? You seem like you really like it, right? It's you talk about it every single day in class. And he's like, I was replaced by the videotape.
Oh.
I guess his job was to train people. And so what they did is they just recorded one person and played it over and over again. But that class could have been awesome, but it was nothing. The only thing that we did that was semi cool is I think it was the first year that the American Airlines Center was open.
Okay.
And they took us to some tour of it. And so we were all excited about it. All the local schools went at the same time, but they wouldn't even show us anything. They would take us behind scenes and right there down that hallway is the locker room. And we're like, oh, cool, we're going to see the locker room. No, we can't show it to you.
That's terrible.
Yeah, and then we went inside, and we were sitting down, and the Stars were practicing. They're like, oh, the Stars are practicing. You guys got to get out. You can't watch this. Why are we here? What are you showing us? What is the point?
We're just showing you a building. Look at the pretty walls, look at the pretty lights, and get out.
Yeah, and they showed us the Jack Daniels Club. Any of us could actually go. They spent at least 25 minutes talking to us about the Jack Daniels Club. We were in it, and I was like, why are we here? What is the point of this
Did they
class?
think maybe you were a college class and they just got, communication was not good?
I have no idea. I don't know who was in charge of that, but it was real awkward. We made fun of it when we got back for a couple days, how terrible it was, and he flipped out on us and screamed at us in the class. It was we got on this guy's nerves a lot. It was.
Well, actually, that doesn't sound all that different from radio work. So I'll give you a good example of that. So when the Star opened up, actually, I'm not even sure if it was fully open yet. Mm-hmm. The company that owns the Eagles, iHeartMedia. And so they invited all the air staff and a bunch of these employees of iHeartMedia to come on this tour of the Star. And they told us, take photos, take videos, but we'll tell you when you can't. So we're getting this grand tour all over the Star, and then we go into the Ford Center, which is the indoor football, which is the indoor practice facility, and that's when the Cowboys are actually practicing, kind of like your Stars were in your story.
Yeah.
So that's when Bo from Bo and Jim decides to pull his phone out to start trying to record some of practice after they had specifically and very, very deliberately told us, don't do that.
Yeah.
And so it's Bo from Bo and Jim getting yelled at by someone from the Cowboys PR staff because they busted him trying to get, video of the Cowboys practice. So whether it's a high school or, a septuagenarian getting in trouble.
Yeah. Did they make him delete it? Were they like, delete this right now?
I don't think they really checked it that
Not
closely,
thoroughly.
because I think they realized that we're a bunch of radio dorks. You're not Patriots plants.
Yeah.
So I think they were, for the most part, they're just trying to be consistent with the no recording stuff and not super belligerent about it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So after high school, did you go into college to get into journalism, or what was?
Yeah, that was what I did. So I went to UTA. So I went to high school in Arlington, and I decided to stay in town, go to UTA, because my whole plan was to stay local as opposed to trying to go to a UT or something. The reason why is because you go to UT at the time, it's got 45, 50,000 students.
Yeah.
In a town that at the time was market 40 something. So you've got a smaller market with a massive amount of students all vying for internships.
Mm-hmm.
So that seemed like a uphill battle. So instead, I thought, well, it would make more sense to stay in Dallas-Fort Worth, market at the time 6, where there's 3 or 4 universities.
Mm-hmm. Not as big.
And the pool is bigger as far as the market size, so the opportunities are more, but the pool of students is smaller. So that was what I did.
So you just stayed at Did you major in journalism, or do they have like a radio broadcast?
Yeah, they had at the time. It was what I did was it was a broadcast communications with a focus on management.
Okay.
Not that I ever saw the end of it, but
You didn't finish?
I did not finish. No.
What happened after? So did you end up getting internships?
No,
No?
because to get an internship in college, you had to have senior standing.
Oh, okay.
So that meant at UTA, I had to have 90 hours. I had nowhere near 90 hours. But what I did have, my first semester of college was, my eyeballs. I paid attention. And what I mean by that is one of my first broadcasting classes was a class you had to take. It was called broadcast diction.
Okay.
So it's basically, if you mumble, they try to break you of it.
Yeah.
And so
I thought you said broadcast addiction. At first I thought, I was like, what is that?
Clearly, I didn't do that well in that class. So what I noticed in that class, there was a girl in there who had 92.5 KZPS logo stuff on a pretty regular basis. And I'm like, I should probably get to know her a little bit.
Yeah.
And I did. She and I actually became friends, and I found out she was in promotions at what's now Lone Star 92.5. And she was able to get me an interview right near the end of my first semester of college, and I actually got the job. So as a part-time promotions assistant, I was able to, at the age of 19, skip the internship process.
Yeah, you're already getting paid and you're already part of the radio business, right?
Exactly.
Getting to know some people.
Exactly.
So how long did you do promotions?
About 3 years. I'd say, I think it was about 3 years before I finally got into a studio to do actual studio type stuff.
And what were you doing for that?
That was when I was at KVIL. So I started out at KZPS doing promotions, which at the time it was The Edge and KZPS that were sister stations. So they were in the same building together. And then I was there for about 6 months. Then eventually, with a short stint at Mix 102.9, I ended up at KVIL in 2000. And that was great because they paid $10 an hour.
Oh.
Fuck yeah.
In 2000, that's a lot of money, though, right?
You know what's sad, though? That same job still pays $10 an hour.
Of course it does.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course it does.
That's
Any
a whole
entertainment type of job, they never change their pay.
Yeah,
It's the same thing with comedy, too. The same pay that you had back when I was first starting off in 2009, it's the same pay.
Yeah.
Some of the same places.
Yeah, it's atrocious. The wages stayed the same, but that was part of the reason I was excited to work promotions at KVIL, because I was going to make like $250 more an hour than I was at any other place I'd worked. And when I did that for a while, I made it obvious that I had an interest in getting studio, and they needed someone to train on the board to be a backup for somebody, and my immediate boss said, "Oh, well, have Dan do it." So he trained me, and then next thing you know, I'm doing the best of love songs at night on Sunday night, just running the board, nothing else.
Just running the board?
On KVIL.
How long did you do that for?
Ooh. I don't remember exactly how long that specific part of it was, but it wasn't long after that. Same thing happened where another board op needed a backup. Well, that board op was the official title, was the technical producer for the Dallas Cowboys radio network, because KVIL at the time.
Oh, yeah, they were the home of the Cowboys, right?
Exactly. So, which was another cool thing to be working at that station. Which, a quick aside, because I was working promotions, when Texas Stadium was still around, when the Cowboys were on KVIL, we had to go retrieve one of our banners.
Okay.
The banner was on top of the press box. Are you familiar at all with Texas Stadium? May she rest in peace?
Yes.
All right, so the press box was all the way at the top. It wasn't like it is today where you might have some seats above the press box. No, it was the very top of the stadium. I had to crawl on top of that through, the Cowboys formed in 1960, but that was when it was the Cotton Bowl. Let's say 20 years of dust. And skin and whatever else is at the top of that stadium. And I had to crawl through it to get this banner, which had been flipped up over the top of the press box. So anyway, I felt like I proved myself enough. They let me in the studio.
Yeah.
So the next guy that needed a backup was running Cowboys games because he had a wedding or something he had to go to. So I had to learn how to do that, and that was stressful.
And so you ran the board for that, for those games? How long did you get to do that? Pretty often?
I did it a handful of times there, and then I'd also, the next season I did it a few more times because that guy who was doing the job before me hadn't had a break in years from doing it. And they felt that I was doing at least a decent enough job that he could go out of town if he needed to. And so the next year, he I believe it was not quite half the games, but pretty close to that I did and he did. So we would do, it would be, I think it was a 9-hour day, something like that. And it pretty much still is, because if you're running the show at the studio, you're there at the time. I think it was a 2-hour pregame show plus the 3+ hour game plus the 2-hour postgame show.
Yeah.
Which also included a highlight show. It's very hectic.
And those years, I mean, so what we're talking like 2000, 2001. Those are 5 and 11 seasons, right?
Yep, I believe it was 3 of them in a row.
Yeah, those are the Dave Camp. Right, that's Dave Campo.
I believe, yeah, it was a Dave Campo year. Aikman was on getting his back beat in, or actually his head beat in. I think that was a Shante Carver era type stuff. But hell, I mean, I'm in the studio at KVIL. I'm talking to Brad Sham down the line, who's at the game. And I've got Drew Pearson doing post-game show in the studio, and and same with Charlie Waters, I think, doing pregame. So here I'm around these Cowboys greats that I had seen growing
you're
up.
Local, you're from this area,
yeah.
So it's like
and I'm in the room
dreams
with them all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's like, man, this is pretty cool.
Because how old were you? Like what, 21, 22 at that time?
Yeah,
yeah. So you're like living.
I'm feeling like my plan that I set out in high school was coming along nicely.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty. I mean, I can't imagine being 21, 22 and just like, you're not covering the team, but you're pretty close to covering the team.
Yeah.
Right? From newspaper to covering the team, right? So what step happened next to actually get you on air?
See, it was actually at KVIL when I first started that. I believe it was, again, poor memory. It's also a really long time ago. If I remember correctly, so I was doing Love Songs at Night on Sunday nights, and then when they needed it, I would fill in for their producer during the week. His name was Douglas. And the host of Love Songs was a lady named Valier Smith. So if he was off, I'd fill in for him. I'd take song requests and things. And then eventually, she might ask me something. I might say something on the air very, very briefly. And then, so that would happen a little bit. She ended up leaving, and another lady took it over, and she used me more on the air as a voice during the show. And then there was a couple of times I had to fill in on the morning show for their producer. And so that had me on the air a little bit more. So that was when I first got my real studio start, was at KVIL.
What's KVIL? And then what? So after your KVIL, were you doing like most people that are in radio, working like 17 jobs at that point? Or did you ever have to do that?
I didn't have time.
Okay.
So when I was working at KVIL, because I was doing so many different things, I was just working whenever they would let me.
Yeah, so basically you were doing how everyone else does 5 odd jobs. You were doing those 5 odd jobs with them, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. So, I mean, for a while there, I was still doing, street team stuff, still doing promotion. So I'd go out and do cash cubes, or I'd banner, the Dallas Zoo for, the back to school day, or whatever, the DISD day, whatever it was. Yeah. Doing all these promotions, street team stuff. And then that night, I might be producing love songs. Or that weekend, I'd be at a cash cube. And that afternoon, I might actually be running a remote back at the station for someone who's on remote somewhere else, like, say, the Plano Balloon Festival.
That sounds extremely tiring.
It was, but, I mean, when you're 20 to 22 years old, you got nothing but energy.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
And I needed money.
Yeah.
So if they were okay with me working the hours, I was going to jump all over it.
Yeah, that's basically what I was doing when I met you. I was 22 or 23, and I had like 4 different jobs.
Yeah.
Just trying, and now if I think about even attempting to do that now, I'd be like, good Lord.
Yeah.
So how did you end up getting on Russ Martin? Like, how did that come about?
So when I was driving to work one day, when I was working at KVIL, I was driving to work, and at this point, I was now full-time running Delilah, which was
the love songs, right?
The love songs, yeah. But she was being piped in via satellite from Seattle. So I ran that. Oh,
Delilah's not local?
That's how good I was.
Dang, okay.
So the reason why I brag on myself on that is because they were getting rid of the local love songs. They were bringing in Delilah, even though she was going to stay in Seattle. We were just basically pushing a few buttons. And then my job was to make her sound like she was here. So I worked with the program director, the assistant program director, and we worked on a few things. This was the key. If you actually listened to Delilah, you would know it, but don't admit it if you did. Her out cue for every segment was, "You're listening to Delilah." Mm-hmm. At that point, that was when the local station had to fire something off to make it sound like she was here. So she would pre-record liners saying, on 103.7 KVIL. So I had initially, that part didn't matter. She gave us 3 reads, a slow, a medium, and a fast. So when I knew she was going to be going into a break, I had all 3 loaded in our system ready to go. And I had to try to match her tempo with the 3 that I had. Mm-hmm. Most of the time I got it right. Sometimes, though, none of them would have worked, and so I hit nothing. And I remember one time when I hit nothing because I felt like that was just the smart thing to do, and the hotline starts ringing, and I know that's my boss. Because in radio, when you fucked up, the program director is going to call you. Uh-huh. Even when you think there's no way that he or she's listening, they are. So I answer the phone, and he says, "Did you forget to play the thing?" I was like, "No." He said, "What happened?" I said, "It just didn't seem right, what she was saying." If I remember right, she was like near tears, whatever it is she was discussing. And I didn't have Sobbing Mess Delilah pre-recorded to play to make it sound natural.
You're like upbeat Delilah.
Right. It's like, "You're listening to Delilah on 103.7 KVIL. It's like, it's not going to work. No. So I didn't play anything.
She doesn't bounce back that quick. She's not bipolar.
Exactly. At least I don't think she is. And so, and he's like, "Okay, good job." He's like, "You did the right thing." He's, "I just want to know, like, were you in the bathroom and you just weren't there to not hit it? Or was it intentional?" I was like, "It was intentional." And he's like, "Good, keep it up." Like, "Okay, good." So anyway, that's a pride moment, even though I hated doing it.
Yeah.
God, I hated that show. It wasn't meant for me, so I wasn't supposed to love it.
No, and you're not, I'm sure you're not into Delilah's music that she's playing. So you're going to listen to that the entire night.
Not as much as others, but that's a really long way of getting around to saying I was driving into work one night telling myself, why isn't there a station that's just morning shows all day? Because that's what I like listening to. I just wanted to hear entertainment throughout the day without music getting in the way of it. And a few months later, after having that thought, a station, Young Country, changed formats from Young Country to the Talk That Rocks. It was 105.3. Mm-hmm. And so once I knew that station existed and I heard that Russ Martin, who I'd listened to doing mornings on the Eagle, was anchoring the station, and then eventually Stern came on, I was like, that's the station I need to be at. That's where I need to be. Mm-hmm. And so put an application, tried a couple different ways to get over there. And I eventually got an interview for a weekend board op job. So position-wise, it was a step down because I wasn't going to be doing all the things I was doing at KVIL, but it was a place I knew I wanted to be. And Valerie Dior, who used to work on the Russ Martin Show, was doing morning news and traffic during Stern shift on 105.3. She put in a good word for me with Bob McNeil, the PD, and I got the job. A little while later, I meet someone, and he and I are like, we have this good chemistry. Let's try to get a show together. So we get a show together. We take it to Bob McNeil, and he's like, I think we have a show. And he actually gave it to us.
Nice.
He was desperate to stop playing music on weekend overnights, so he gave us, it was a guy named Tasso, so he gave me and Tasso 1 to 5 a.m. Sunday morning.
Oh, 1 to 5 a.m., okay.
And we couldn't have been happier.
Yeah.
We danced in the parking lot. We were ecstatic, because at this point, I'm 22 years old, and I've got a show in Market 5. I don't care it's 1 to 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. So we'd only been on the air for like 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And we get word that Dan Lewis, the producer of Russ's show, didn't want to screen calls anymore. So they were looking for a call screener. Valerie Dior, again, threw my name in. It's like, well, Dan knows how to do it, because she and I actually worked together at KVIL.
Okay.
So it's a very incestuous business. So it does really well to keep good contacts. And it worked in my favor. And basically, I kind of got the call screening job on Russ's show just by default, because I was the only person on staff that had the experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because no one else there knew how to screen a call. But because I had screened calls for love songs,
there you go,
somehow qualified me to screen calls on the Russ Martin show.
Completely different calls, right?
Nowhere near the same. But so the really cool thing about it was, part of the reason I got into radio was because of him, was because of his show that I listened to when he was doing mornings on the Eagle. Mm-hmm. And I one day even said, it's like, you know what? I want to do that. I want to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then my plan just kind of step by step by step by step, and then recognizing opportunity. And it's like, okay, that's where I want to be. I got there. Mm-hmm. Other things happened. I got a show. I had a job, producing shows on the weekend. And then the opportunity came out to work on Russ's show. So, I mean, within a handful of months of starting at 105.3, I had my own show, and I was an associate producer on the Russ Martin show.
How did you eventually get on air with them?
That's the beauty of Russ's show, is if you're part of that show, you're going to be on the air.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's going to happen. Because one of the things, especially back then, that Russ wanted to do is he wanted to sandbag you. He wanted to put you on the spot and try to get you in trouble. Mm-hmm. So if a call got through that he didn't like, he talked to me about it right then on the air, because he knew that conflict is what drives any sort of entertainment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it doesn't matter what show you're watching, whether it's like one of those Crossfire type political shows, or like a drama.
Or it's like how they did with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. Like,
yeah,
they purposely did that.
It's conflict. Because if the talking heads agree with each other, well, that's boring. I'm going to switch to something else. Same thing with a radio show. You want to keep it interesting, you need to have some conflict. So if there was a shitty call that got through, Russ would call me out on the shitty call. I'd be like, well, why'd you put that through? Oh, well, I thought this. Well, don't think that. I mean, it was immediate conflict. And so you do that enough, and you just get a little more used to it, being on the air, being kind of understanding what, the dynamics of the show at the time were. Mm-hmm. All the cast members on the show, everything that went into the show, and I'm finally looking behind this curtain that I'd always wondered about. And now, not only am I looking behind the curtain, but I'm in it.
Yeah, you're on the other side of the curtain.
Yeah.
So, y'all are on 105.3 for a while, right?
Yeah.
And then you end up staying on whenever it changes to sports. Were you on sports for a little bit?
I was.
I have a memory of you having like a show with someone random that was like semi big time.
Oh no, I had when I was at the Fan, I had shows with lots of random people.
Didn't you have like one with like a national guy?
I know what you're talking about. I'm just seeing how long it'll take you to get there.
Salisbury.
That's it.
Yeah.
Baby arm Sean Salisbury.
Yeah. How long did y'all had a show for a little while, right?
Yeah. It was for a few minutes. It was It was never expressly told to me. So what happened was the Live 105.3 switched formats in December of 2008. They fired most everybody, including me. But it was weird because when they bring us into the conference room, not just like this one, they said, okay, we're signing your exit paperwork. Don't speak disparagingly. We'll give you severance and blah, blah, blah. But then they also said, no, we think there could be some value, you may have some value on this station. We're going sports. And I told them, well, why not just keep me?
Yeah, why do you have to fire me to rehire me?
But it's old radio's stupid tradition where they need to get rid of all the familiar voices so people forget about what used to be and focus on the now. Whatever. So I was on unemployment for 4 months, and then right around the time they called me and said, hey, you want to fill in for Jagger on mornings on the fan? Sure. Mm-hmm. I'm not getting paid other than, what I've paid in unemployment, so sure, I'd love that. But then eventually I was working afternoons, and I was told working with Sean Salisbury was like a stopgap thing until they figured out what they were going to do in afternoons. Because before that, Ben and Skin had that slot, and then they left, and I think they ended up at ESPN. Sean Salisbury had been there for a little bit. I don't know if he's doing middays or what he was doing.
Is he Is he from here? Is he local?
He lived here at the time.
Okay.
I don't know if he was ever local. I can't remember, but he lived here at the time.
Okay.
And so they had me work with him. But since they never straight up told us what the situation was, as far as, hey, if this is really good, we may just keep this. That was never said. It was, this is a stopgap until we find these people that I know I'm going to find. That was what the program director at the time was saying. And so Salisbury and I just kind of hung out with no real direction.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know because it's kind of hard when you're sort of left in limbo. It's like you're not being told, hey, if you knock it out of the park, you can keep this, especially when the program director at the time didn't let you do what you wanted to do. So we were really just put in a box.
Yeah, and isn't that the worst where it's like, hey, I have exactly what I want you to do, but I don't have any no plans. There's no plans.
Right.
I'm not telling you what I want you to do, but you have to do exactly what I say to do.
Yeah, it was very much, and he also, the PD, the way he always referred to it is, he's the coach, he's got the playbook, we're the players, he calls the plays, we go execute the plays. So in other words, there are no audibles. He doesn't want you having a whole lot of creativity, which is not the best place to be. But it was better than unemployment, so I was all over it.
That's true, right? Who else were you on? You said there was a bunch of random people that you were.
Yeah, so when that station first started, it was chock full of random people because there was not a whole lot of people in the market to hire because all the good people already had jobs. They were already on the ticket. They were already on ESPN radio. And so they hired, people that they thought could do sports, and then so there were guys like Pete Stein, who was at the ticket, Mike Rodriguez. What was it? There was a Kevin, Greg Hill, who was NFL player, college at A&M, and went to Dallas Carter. He was phenomenal. Loved him. One of the best shows I ever did on that station was One Day. One Day it was myself, Greg Hill, and Sean Salisbury. We did One Day, and it was everything that station should have and could have been at that time.
And they got it for 1 day.
1 day. And then like a little bit later, they fired Greg. And then after that 1 day, they moved Greg back down to middays, and it was me and Sean in afternoons. And I was left dumbfounded. I was like, why not keep this? This was really good.
Yeah.
You even said it was really good and everything you wanted it to be, and then you didn't keep it. Radio.
I think y'all had, was like Larry Brown a part of it at one point?
Larry Brown did post-game shows.
Okay.
So when I was there, I did Cowboys Radio Network, so I came full circle. So I started out running the board on the Cowboys Radio Network, and then, so that would have been 2001. 2001 and 2002, I'm just a board op on the Cowboys Radio Network. I would screen the calls for the post-game show. I'd help with the highlight show, all behind-the-scenes stuff. Fast forward to 2009. So 8 years later, I'm the host of the halftime and postgame show on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
There you go. Right. Yeah, because I think that's when you started dating your wife, right?
Yeah. Tara and I started dating, and our first date was May the 4th.
In 09?
In 09, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think I remember you knowing you at that point and always asking you like, who do you think's going to make the team? Like, because I think I went to OU, so there was some random OU. Who was the OU player that was on? It was like Manny Johnson. Do you remember that name?
I remember that name. Was he a wide receiver?
Yeah.
Okay.
He went to OU at the same time I did, and they had drafted him like deep, like 6th, 7th round or something. I remember telling Tara, I was like, text Dan, ask him if he thinks Manny Johnson's going to make the roster or not.
Yeah.
And then she responded back and said, Dan says that Larry Brown says he has a pretty good chance. I was like, yes.
I knew what I should do in that moment. It's like, okay, I'm not sitting here by myself. I'm sitting here next to Larry Brown.
Yeah, and I was like, Larry Brown said
Super
that.
Bowl 30 MVP, and I'm
2
pretty sure
interception, Larry Brown.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this obviously it had to be in the middle of a post-game show. So I get Tara's text. I'm like, hey, Larry. And so what you heard, that was the truth. So it went from you to Tara to me to Larry, and then Larry to me to Tara to you.
That's like probably my claim to fame. You know, Larry Brown is answering my question on the spot. Like, that's big deal because like you said, like, so I'm 4th grade or 5th grade when he gets those interceptions. So that's a big deal. Larry Brown. I mean, no one cares about Larry. You're a great guy, but I'm sure only Cowboys fans from the 90s are excited about Larry Brown.
Yeah, because the Steelers fans are not excited.
No,
about him,
not at all. And no one else is like, no. You know, Travis, you know who Larry Brown is? No. Okay. Like,
Travis still doesn't know who he's doing.
He's like, why are y'all still talking about Larry
He's
Brown?
wondering what the hell a Super Bowl is.
Yeah. So you you're on the Fan for a little while, and then you immediately went back to Russ Martin, right, when they get on the Eagle?
Yeah, so it was, it was 2009, 2010. So it was 2010. So I was on the Fan for a little over a year, and I knew at some point Russ was going to be back on the air. It was just a matter of time. But he was under contract, and he still had 2 or 3 years left on his deal from when the station changed formats. He never got fired. They just took him off the air and just kept paying him. That's what happens when you get a contract. I didn't have a contract. I was making $30,000 a year, and off I went.
Yeah.
So anyway, we knew Russ was going to go back on the air at some point, and then I'd stayed in touch with Russ, and throughout the whole time I was on the Fan, and he finally got it all worked out with the attorneys to have the CBS attorney let him not necessarily out of the contract entirely, but made it to where he could speak to other companies and not get sued.
Okay.
So once that happened, he was able to talk to iHeart, which at the time was it Clear Channel. There's been a few name changes. We'll call it
Clear
iHeart.
Channel sounds familiar.
We'll call it iHeart just for ease. So he was able to talk to iHeart at that point. The obvious landing spot was going to be back at the Eagle, and so he had called and was like, "Hey, getting the show back together. Do you want in?" I was like, "Yes, absolutely." Because at the time I was doing, I think it was 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. on the Fan, pretty much by myself. That was not fun.
No, I can't. Yeah, no.
The only good thing is I had a little bit of creativity at that point because everyone was in bed. The boss that was going to be listening was not typically awake. So at that time, I was basically doing somewhat of a show, talking to my board op for the most part, even though he wasn't supposed to be on the air, not that I cared. And then Rangers post-game shows. That's what that was at that time.
Okay.
So when Russ called and said, "Hey, you want to get back together?" That was a better opportunity to go do mornings on the Eagle than staying deep nights on the Fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so that was what I did.
And that's what you wanted to do anyways, right? You wanted to do more of a mixed type show.
Yeah.
Not just straight sports.
Yeah.
And then you're still on it. Y'all are still kicking ass, right?
Yeah. I've realized now it's been 11 years. So I've actually now been on the Eagle longer than I was on at Live 105.3.
That's crazy. That's nuts, man. That show's been around forever, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, name of the podcast is called Back in the Day, right? Every single season, I focus on like a different topic. Season 2, I've been focusing on jobs.
Okay.
You have a story about your first job? What did you do? What was your very first job you ever had?
All right, very, 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 very first job. I was actually a baseball umpire for my baseball.
How old were you?
I was 13.
13?
Yeah, I was 13. So when I had just moved to Plano, and this new league had started up. It was called Plano Baseball Association.
Okay.
I think it's still around. It was this new select league in Plano, and since my mom she knew I was huge baseball player, so she's like, okay, we'll get you into this. And so there were tryouts and all that cool stuff. So I'm playing select baseball for this brand new league, and they also were letting kids that were playing umpire for $13.50 a game, that's big money.
That's not bad because they're hour-long games, hour and 20 minutes maybe tops.
Hour and a half time limit. Hour and a half time limit, and we were because we're under age, we're child labor at this point. We weren't allowed to work more than 3 hours. That meant you got to work 2 games.
Okay.
So you get 2 hour-and-a-half games and $13.50 a game. So now you're making $27 on a Saturday. And man, when it's 1992, 1993, I felt a little bit like a baller.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And you talk about a great first job. I'm already playing baseball for fun. Now I just get to umpire it for mostly fun, except
parents.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you have any random, any terrible parent situations?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember any of the worst ones?
I do. Yeah. The worst one was easy. So it was bang bang play at home plate. I'm calling balls and strikes. I'm a home plate umpire, and I'm 13. Yeah, 13. And the kids that I'm doing the umpiring for, because of our age, we weren't allowed to be umpiring the select kids. Okay. So it was there was select and then recreational. So I'm calling balls and strikes for 9 and 10-year-old rec teams.
So mostly balls.
Mostly
right?
balls, but
Mostly
occasionally you feel bad. You're like, strike.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a bang bang play at home plate. To this day, I know I made the right call.
What was it?
I think it was safe. Whatever I called was the right call.
Was the right call. Okay.
The asshole in the stands disagreed with me vehemently. And what I didn't like was, look, I understand baseball. I get it. You don't like the call from where you're sitting. He absolutely should have been out. And it was. I called safe. Everyone thought it was out. The reason why, how familiar with you with baseball? You at least know
Very
enough.
Familiar, but yeah, played a lot of baseball.
All right, so you know bang bang play. You also know the difference between, or not the difference between, but just because the ball gets there before
doesn't mean the
player,
tag gets there.
Doesn't mean the tag does,
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. The ball gets to home plate before the runner does, but the catcher didn't drop the tag.
Yeah, he probably tagged him up top.
The kid slid right under the mitt, right across home plate, and I'm right there on safe. But the parents in the stands can't quite see that. They're all mad because the ball got there first. Kid has to be out. And I just let them yell. They're going to be mad no matter what. They're going to be mad. Half the stands are really excited. The other half's really angry. So we just continue on, keep playing ball. This one guy behind me, though, just will not stop talking. And what bothers me is that he's not even yelling anymore. He's just saying it under his breath, like I can't hear him or something. So what made me mad about it is, so you're talking shit, but you're not doing it to a level to where I could hear you.
Yeah, you're just
at least he thought. Problem is, I can split my hearing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I need to call balls and strikes, but I could hear what he was saying because my left ear was my good ear. And I eventually, the kid on the mound is almost mid-windup. I rip my mask off, and I call time, and I turn around and I walk back to the backstop, and I know exactly who's saying it. Because the thing that sent me over the edge was him saying, oh, I want his name and report him. So I said, fine, we'll stop. Time, rip the mask off, go back. You want my name? I'll give you my name. You got a pen? I'm going to write it down. It might be hard to spell for you. I'm 13.
Charging up this adult. I like that.
The guy's probably in his 20s or 30s or something, but now I look back on it, it's not like not like it was a huge badass guy or anything, but when you're 13, that's
some balls right there, yeah.
That was stupid. But I did it because I was just mad. It was I knew I had the right call, and I wasn't going to let him shit talk behind me. And the other added benefit was, I'm going to talk to you, your supervisor, Bob. I was like, good, go ahead. He's right over there on the next field calling the other game. Go talk to him. And the best part of it was that guy, and he was older man, supervisor for all these umpires, all these kids. He could have thrown me under the bus left and right, but he didn't.
Yeah.
He actually had my back, and I ejected that dad. I couldn't believe I'm 13 years old. I'm ejecting a father from Spring Creek, whatever the sports complex up was in Plano, because he wouldn't stop.
Man, what a loser, Dad.
So I kicked him out, and that's when he wanted to go talk to that guy. I was like, go talk to him. He's right over there. And he talked to him, and the guy pointed at the parking lot and said, go.
Can you imagine at your age right now, like, arguing with a 13-year-old over Little League baseball?
Arguing, and on top of it, losing.
Yeah. And getting kicked out.
Yes.
Like, how embarrassing. Like, there's no way his wife looked at him the same after that.
No, they never had sex again.
Yeah, no. Like,
whatever kids they had, that was it.
That was it.
No
There's
more
no
after that.
more, yeah.
I guarantee you they did not. That couple did not make it.
He did not need to have a vasectomy. Like, there's no need for it.
I think I did it for him.
You saved them their insurance money or whatever. But yeah, like, dude, that's the worst part about youth sports is parents. Like, I don't know if you ever, besides that, if you ever had to deal with youth sports at all. I used to coach youth sports out in South Dallas. Mm-hmm. And it was sad because most of our parents never showed up to anything. But, you know, and you're always like, man, that's so sad. You know, like, I wish they would have their kids could get to, you know, their kids would have their parents watch them play basketball or whatever. Well, then when we started coaching football with them, the parents started randomly showing up. And I was like, man, I wish these parents never would show up again.
Right.
Because I had a brother, like one of the kids' older brothers, like cussed me out on the sideline one time. And I was like, get off the sidelines, dude. And he like, in the corner, he was just like pacing back and forth. He's like, you about to find out. I said, dude, leave. Like, go. Like, right? Like, we're not going to have an argument in front of a bunch of 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, why are you acting like this? So, okay. So umpire's your first job.
Yeah.
You got any stories about a job that you either got fired from or quit inappropriately?
So the one that people typically ask about the most was the format change from Live 105.3 to The Fan. But you pretty much kind of already got the gist of that, and I tell that story enough. So I'll give you a different one.
Okay.
So this, I mentioned earlier that I had a short stint doing promotions at Mix 102.9.
Okay.
So this is the reason why that stint was so short. So I was really excited to get that job because I needed a job, and I was working like at the front desk of an ad agency in Dallas for a little while. So I wanted to get a job back in radio, and Mix 102.9 was hiring, interviewed, I had experience, got the job. Awesome. The other cool thing about that was Mix 102.9 and the Eagle were sister stations. They're in the same building together. So that was when I first met Chloe. Because Chloe, who's on the show now, at the time he was in the promotions department on the Eagle. He was the original free stuff guy. So I got to meet him. I worked, I think, 2 or 3 months at Mix doing promotions. My last event was the event I never showed up for. So they were supposed to. So the midday lady, her name was Lisa. She was supposed to be doing an event at I think it was Northeast Mall in Hearst, and I lived in Arlington at the time. Lived on my own. Had a roommate, but lived on my own. At that time, I was the only member of my family in the state, so we partied. And so I did not wake up in time
for work
at all.
What time were you supposed to be there?
I think the event was 10 to noon, and I think I woke up, 10:30 or so. So I was already hours late. It was bad. And I knew I'd fucked up. There's no way around it. And so when the promotions director, she called me on Monday, after I'd already talked to her on Saturday and everything, and said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I overslept." And I was honest about it. And then on Monday or Wednesday, whatever it was, a few days later, she called and said, "Hey, you think you can come to the station? Nothing really particular. Just you can come to the station.
Bring your
today.
Badge. Bring your badge."
And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then the last thing she said was, "Oh, make sure you bring your badge." As if I didn't know already. The bring your badge is that's pretty much you're going in front of the firing squad, and that's what happened. And she was really, honestly, really sweet about it. I could tell because I knew she liked me. She had hired me, but she knew she needed someone to fall on the sword, and that was me, and it should have been. And I told her because she was kind of having a hard time saying. I was like, "You firing me, right?" She's like, "Yeah," and I'm so sorry. I was like, "Don't be. It's my fault.
Yeah,
here's my stuff."
You ever run into her at all since then?
No, honestly.
Never seen her?
I no. And it's weird too because in this business you have a tendency to run across the same people time and time again.
Yeah.
But there's also some that you never see again. It just kind of happens that way.
It's not that bad of a fired story. Because how old were you at that time?
Oh, 20. 20?
20? That's a normal, 20-year-old thing, oversleep.
It's a normal screw up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was very much against everything else I had done because, it's like it was very intentional in everything I was doing.
Yeah.
And here I outright fucked up.
How soon did you get another radio job after that?
Ooh, let's see. It was a few months later, and it worked out because that was when I got the job at KVIL.
Yeah, so it worked out because then all the other steps that you took got you to where you are now, right?
Exactly.
So, okay. All right. Last question I'll ask you.
Okay.
Money's not an object. That's not an issue. You don't have to worry about money. Time's not an issue. You don't have to worry about time. Besides radio, if you weren't doing radio, what's the one job that you would do?
Honestly, I'd still go back and say, let me do play-by-play.
Play-by-play?
Yeah, let me do play-by-play.
Would you want to do play-by-play or would you want to do color?
Oh, play-by-play.
By far?
I didn't play enough to do
I guess
color.
that's true, right?
Because once you reach a certain level, the color guy has to be someone that played.
That's true. That's true. Who was it that is it Pat Summerall that went from a color guy to a play-by-play?
Yeah.
Is he like one of the only ones to ever really do that, right?
He's one of the only ones I can think of, yeah, because it was so unheard of. Lynn Dawson, I think. I don't know. Did Lynn Dawson actually do play-by-play? I'm going to go with you. I think it was
Pat Summerall.
Pat Summerall. That was pretty much it because I think he was a kicker, right?
Yeah, punter.
So
one of the two. Kicker or punter.
He played football.
He played football on a team.
He played football, and then he did color, and then he was able to slide. He was talented enough to slide over into the play-by-play spot.
What would you want to do play-by-play for? What sport?
Football.
Football?
Yeah.
Over, what would be second, baseball or basketball?
Oh, baseball for sure. I don't know enough about basketball.
To do play-by-play?
No. With basketball, it's pretty much he shoots, he scores. Yay.
Yeah.
I mean, I can recognize a 2-3 zone or something like that. I can recognize man. I understand full and half court pressures, and I sure as hell know what running lines are. But that's not my passion. If I was to do that, so really, it would be sports. It would be the ideal. It would be, one game a week. Now it's 17 games, but doing that, and then the rest of the week you're doing prep for that game. Yeah. But it's still a lot of good downtime.
College or NFL?
NFL.
NFL over college?
Yeah.
Man, at college would be tough. I think I like college football more than NFL, but man, the fanatic part of college football is just insane.
The pageantry is with college football, I love all the pageantry. I love all the traditions and all that stuff. That's the stuff that makes it so much fun. But NFL, it's just I gravitated more towards that because I didn't go to a college that had a football team, so I never had any sort of allegiance to any sort of a program for football. Yeah. To this day, it's like I'll watch college football, and I don't really care who wins for the most part. I just want to see a good game.
Yeah, I never really I liked college football until I went to OU, and there's actually something to cheer, like a real team. But if I had gone somewhere else where like college football wasn't that big of a deal, I probably would just kind of have it on in the background.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this was a lot of fun. You got anything you want to promote? Like, where can people find you? Anything like that?
Well, you can find us, like you mentioned at the beginning, on 97.1 The Eagle, 5 to 7 p.m. The show's still kicking.
Sweet. Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
Oh, yeah. I probably should promote all that stuff. So on social media, I should just do my normal, end-of-show plugs. All right. To follow me on social media, it's at the Dan O'Malley. That's true for all the accounts. And then, honestly, because I got a side hustle as well, like so many other people do these days. If you need help buying or selling a house, I am also a licensed real estate agent in the state of Texas.
I saw that. When did you get into real estate?
Last year.
What made you decide to do that?
Pandemic and 2 hours less of on the radio.
Okay. And are you enjoying it?
I am, yeah.
Like, are you doing I'm in real estate too. But I deal with apartments. Are you dealing with buyers mostly or sellers?
Yes.
Both?
Yeah. Right now, mostly buyers because inventory is so low. So there's very few sellers. There's plenty of buyers and there's not as many sellers. But, if I had to I think I probably Jesus. I either bought or sold 12 houses in the last year.
Nice. Not bad. That's a good first year.
And I actually just passed my 1 year anniversary. So.
Nice, dude. Congratulations.
It helped. The pandemic had people buying houses left and right. Right now, it's slow as shit. But that's okay.
It's this time of year, too. I mean, when school starts back up, people just kind of slow. It's how it is in my industry, too.
Yeah.
When kids go back to school, like life just kind of pauses. And then once they get used to being back in school, it'll pick back up for sure. But guys, check out Dan. You can check him out on the Russ Martin Show. Follow him on Instagram and Twitter. Buy a house from him, too. You can find me on Instagram at Michael Pasvar. You can check out show dates at michaelpasvar.com. I'm not 100% sure when this episode will come out yet, so I'm not going to quote any dates. Just go to my website to see dates that are coming up. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. See you guys next time.
Back in the day. Back in the day.